Hey, everybody, and welcome to a conversation about the Kentucky Goblins, of all things. I've got Rob from The Most Interesting Story with me here again today. Last time we talked about dogmen or dog people. I don't know. We never did actually go down the path of gendering dogmen, but
No, we didn't figure out the pluralization either. So
yeah, I don't know about that. We should have looked up and seen what the Spanish and French people had to say about it. But anyway, this time we're talking about the Kentucky Goblins, and as far as I know, they're totally asexual. But we may find out later.
yeah,
How's it
none of
going,
the
Rob?
results. It's going fantastic, Bob. Thanks for having me on again.
So this is a really interesting case that has multiple names to it, right? So it's also called the Hopkinsville encounter. It's also called the Kelly Green Men case because the family's last name was Kelly, who had the experience, right? So it goes by many names, and we're gonna talk about them as the Kentucky Goblins because it sounds like a sports team, possibly from your alma mater down there in Kentucky. I don't know.
That would be a good sports team from
Yeah.
that area.
Now there is I know because I had the new people who went to school there, but there's a place called Murray State in Kentucky, and it's in Murray, Kentucky, of all places. And but their mascot is the Racers, the
Racers.
horses. Murray Racers is what they were. I always thought that was one of the best sports college, non popular. I don't know what you'd call it. It's not like Big Ten or any of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. They're just a regular old school. But Murray Racers, I thought was really good. So maybe there's a community college in Kentucky called the Goblins. We'll have to look that up.
Is Duke in Kentucky? I should know this. I think Duke might
No,
be.
Duke's North Carolina.
Yeah, I knew that. Right.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm glad you do. I thought there was maybe it's Kentucky, just like the larger Kentucky University. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Now, here in St. Louis, there is a private university called St. Louis University, and their mascot is the Billiken, which is a goblin like creature.
Really?
Yeah, the Billikens. It's like a little gremlin, goblin-y, kind of weird looking thing.
Didn't he play for the Washington Redskins quarterback?
Could be. I'm not sure
Billiken.
about that.
I think
But
it's
is his name Billiken?
I think so. Billiken, Billy Kilmore, something like
Oh,
that.
maybe. Well, Billikens are a big thing here in St. Louis with the St. Louis University. But they're not, any kind of big university, like, you know, other ones. I don't even know which one. I don't even follow college sports. I just follow mascots, apparently.
You got all the flags up and you just stare at the
That's
mascot.
right. That's right. There's a movie called Mascots. I have not watched it, but now I feel like I should after all this.
Well, you've got to check out Mascot's Memories. It's one of the episodes on Your Most Interesting Story, which is
Oh,
actually an interview with a former professional sports team
I
mascot.
actually listened to that.
There
I
you go.
did.
Got
I
some
have
inside
listened to
scoop.
that. He was he was
Sharky, San
the
Jose
what?
Sharks.
The Sharks. That's right. I
Yep.
was going to say something else. I'm glad I didn't know. But
He was
that was
also
interesting because he came from the ceiling. He came down from the ceiling. That was just
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
The
he's the one that figured that out and started doing that for Sharky, right?
Yeah, for sure. And he would eat people or what have you. Yeah,
He
he'd
would
bite
eat
them.
their heads
Yeah,
repeatedly. Yeah,
that was a good story. I really enjoyed that one. I'm
good. Yeah,
sorry
it
I didn't
was.
remember he was with the Sharks off the top of my head.
Well, he was also with the 49ers before they had Sourdough Sam, so kind of the nameless mascot, I guess, before
Yeah,
they introduced.
he was just like a bucket. He was a pail,
Really?
a panning.
That's the steam pan.
He was a gold pan. That was what he was. So what have you got for us, Rob, on the Kentucky Goblins
Kentucky
case?
Goblins. One correction though, you'd mentioned that they were called the Kelly Goblins. That's because the other town that their farm was near was actually called Kelly. So there's two towns, Hopkinsville and Kelly.
I thought their last name was Kelly for some
No, there's
reason.
two families involved, the Suttons and the Taylors. Those are the primary families that were involved.
Oh, there you go. Look
Hmm.
at that.
Hmm.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can call them the Kelly Goblins, the Hopkinsville Goblins, the Kentucky Goblins. You can have a Hob in there if you want to. We could call them Billikens if you want to keep on theme.
I think that we might get sued if we call them the Billikens, to be honest. It's a very wealthy university in St. Louis that is there. So you
There's
don't
not,
want
isn't there
to.
a Milligan? I don't know. There's
There is a Millikan
university.
University in Decatur, where I'm from.
Is there a mascot the Billikens?
Big Blue. I don't know that
Yeah.
it. I don't know. I don't know what that refers to.
Maybe we don't want to know. Just, have you seen a picture of their mascot?
I don't remember. I lived there for quite
Oh,
a long time. I grew up there and everything, and actually, my wife was going to that university when we met. But
okay.
I don't remember what. I think it's just like a guy wearing blue, as far as I know.
Huh. Well, he's got the proper name then, if that's the
Yeah, I'll have
case.
to look it
Is he
up. I never.
big?
Well, yeah, oh, he seemed big to me. But
Okay.
again, this
Well,
is a private school.
yeah.
It's for more wealthy people than me.
They didn't spend a lot of time on the
I did
mascot.
actually. I spent time on campus there, even though I didn't
Oh,
go to school there, only because I was apparently looking for women.
it worked, right?
It worked. I, I mean, if just a piece of advice to any youngsters out there: go to one of the best schools in your area and hang out until you find somebody.
There you go. That's wise.
I mean, it can't hurt. Better than being at the welfare line or in the unemployment line, I suppose. I don't know.
Drop a line in the water and see if any bites.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole other story. Maybe we don't want to go down that one, but we did, yeah. And I think it's just they just were called Big Blue. Now you got me thinking I should look it up.
Because the Milliken Billikens would be a lot of fun to say over and over again.
I don't think now they definitely weren't the Billikens. Let's see what it says here.
Pelicans?
The Pelicans, no.
Gilligan? No, he's a
It's
trademark name.
a private college in Decatur, which is weird in and of itself. Oh, okay. It's got this. He looks like a monster. He's called Big Blue.
Mm.
Now, this was definitely not the mascot whenever I was there.
Is he
And he looks
goblin-esque?
no, he's more like Bigfoot esque,
Okay.
but he's on all fours. He looks very, kind of primate ape like
Hmm.
but he's got large teeth and red eyes,
Oh,
and it's called Big Blue.
there we go.
But that incarnation was definitely not around when I was. I would have remembered that and locked that into my head.
Yeah, you probably still have some clothing, some athletic wear.
Could be. Now, it looks like an older version of Big Blue was a bird-like creature, but now they've got the cooler.
Shapeshifter, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, the Milliken skinwalkers. No, it looks like they just changed it to make it look cooler than like a big bird. So he looked kind of like a bit of a kind of diseased bluebird. But now he looks like a nice
Yeah.
big monster, which is even better.
Maybe he was a diseased phoenix, and then he arose
Oh,
from the ashes and became what you
definitely,
described.
definitely not a phoenix. I mean, he literally looks like a Muppet reject in this picture. It's like Jim Henson probably said, "Who made this? They're fired," and threw the costume and the person right out the door.
And they probably got it on sale.
That could be. But I do love mascot. But yeah, the new one, the picture of the new one is definitely much. They didn't show a picture of like a person wearing a suit, but if they got a suit of this would be pretty good.
I'm glad to see that some areas of our country are making forward progress. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely very cryptid looking for sure. The bird looked very like not very good at all, but this new one definitely.
It's another step in the right direction.
Yeah, and they call him Big Blue, so I was
Big
right with
Blue.
at least the name. Big Blue. Yeah.
He might have been
No,
inspired by
take it.
Bigfoot. Foot was taken, and so they went with Big Blue instead.
Mm-hmm. Could be. Could be. I'll have to. This may be a whole nother show. We probably should get back to
We
goblins.
should
But
get back to the Kentucky, Kelly, and/or Hopkinsville Goblins.
and I read through some stuff, and I swear that Kelly was the last name of the family. So I've already been corrected. Apparently, I'm the dumb guy in this duo for this topic right here.
Well, and I'm relying, as mentioned in previous episodes, on AI. So there, the hallucination that AI does. So perhaps they've screwed something up, and all my sources are just giving me the wrong information. But I think I've heard it in a couple of different places. So I'm pretty
No,
confident.
I pulled up the wiki, which of course is solid as a rock, and
Uh-huh.
they do say Sutton and Taylor are the two names of the families.
There we
So
go. Yep.
yeah.
So the whole thing starts because Billy Ray Taylor, who is apparently a family friend, I think, of the Suttons, he
I guess so.
sees
Yeah, Billy Ray. Yeah.
a silvery object shooting through the sky on the Suttons while he's at the Suttons farm.
Mm.
I think that's how the whole thing starts, the story more or less, and then he goes back to the farmhouse, right? And the Suttons are there, including Lucky. Lucky's one of the Suttons, and
That's a very good name.
it is a very good name. The
This is like the pre-traveling Wilburys, I think.
Lucky and Billy Ray.
Right. There was a new Lucky in the recent incarnation in the late '80s, but yeah.
Apparently, Billy Ray's a bit of a no one believed him, right? Maybe a jokester of sorts, but they soon came to believe him, right? Because pretty soon their little farmhouse was what appeared to be under attack is probably a strong word,
Mm-hmm.
but they were being approached by some interesting looking creatures. What is your information? How are they described in the information that you've?
Well, they have a drawing here, and
Oh,
they look like, um, boy, they don't look like anything that you would. I'm trying to. They look kind of like gremlins. Like if you were to think about a gremlin, gremlins have like bigger ears, right,
yep.
and big head, and but seem you can't really tell this the stature. They show a comparison. They're about half the size of an average person, so about 2.5 feet, 2.5 to 3 feet tall, and their arms are really long. They
Yeah,
hang
long
down all
arms.
the way down to their ankles almost in this
Some have
picture.
called their arms emaciated. It's kind of weird,
Yeah,
but
and they're
they
real
have
thin. Yeah,
mhm.
and their eyeballs though are on the sides of their head almost.
Glowing gold eyeballs.
Yeah, but then their bodies are, I guess, somewhat proportional to their diminutive stature, other than their really long legs and their weird ass head.
Of the big pointy ears, yeah.
Yeah, the bunny ears.
Totally normal outside of that.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Could be possibly a child with, some kind of large tubes on his arms and wearing a bucket.
Right, paper towel tubes, perhaps. Really thin
Yeah, you
armed
know how you
kid, but
just run around and yeah,
remember the old days, the Christmas wrapping tubes? They were a little bit thicker,
yeah,
a little bigger. You could actually fit your arm in them.
the old ones you could,
Yeah.
and then you could be like a robot. And well, we used to beat each other with
Right.
them. The
Yeah.
fun part was to get to the tube, and then your mom would give it to you or whatever, and then you would stick it on your hand like a weapon, and then you
Mhm.
would run around and hit everybody.
Yep. Or you stick
Yeah,
behind them and kind of go "Oh," through the tube in their
yeah,
ear. Yeah.
woo, yeah. That's good too.
Oh, those were the days when the tubes were
Well,
larger.
I'll tell you, I had I can't remember when it was. I'm not very good at wrapping things, but I will give it a try. And I think my wife was wrapping though, actually, presents for our kids, and she got to the end, and I was so hoping to get the tube.
Oh.
You know what? No tube.
Is it just that sort of that rounded off piece of what is it, brown paper, kind of the stiff paper, no tube at all?
Yeah, no tube
Yeah.
at all.
That's
I was like, this is tubeless. Why in the world do they even bother? I
Yeah.
mean, it has no life other than being wrapping paper, which in the sense it has no life. it's basically made to be ripped up and thrown away.
It does make some animals happy. At least one animal. I knew a family who had a husky dog,
Hmm.
and when they were done unwrapping gifts, they would give the wrapping paper to the dog, who would just shred it. He would go nuts. He loved doing it so much.
So he ripped it even more.
Even more, he just would tear it totally apart. Yeah, just so that was.
Unfortunately, that wrapping paper also got to travel through the digestive tract of a husky.
I'm not sure they let him eat too much of it, but they'd have to clean that up afterwards.
You
But
you know it all. Something went through. Whenever you.
maybe the first time or two, right before they started watching so closely.
So extra usage there.
Hmm. But they're very long, spindly arms, right? In fact, speaking of arms, and this is where I hesitated to say that the farmhouse was under attack, is because the first, at least the visual that stuck out to me, what they described from the witnesses who were supposedly there, was one of the creatures comes walking from the wood line with their arms raised up over their head, right?
Mm.
And some say, well, maybe they were just trying to say, hey, we're not trying to cause any trouble here. We're just here to come have a conversation. But that they pulled out the guns, right? They pulled out the shotguns and rifles, and they were having none of it. They started firing at these creatures.
Hmm. Well, I think that's a. I mean, they used to call that the Kentucky Hello.
Kentucky hello. That's right. They probably walked right past the no trespassing sign at the
That's
end of the
right.
driveway.
You come walking out of the woods looking like a gremlin, you're gonna get
Yeah.
the Kentucky Hello. Now we said the date, so I have a
Oh, you're
date
right.
of
Yeah.
August 21st, 1955, which I think is interesting.
Because
Well, because it's so long ago now,
oh,
and this is this is not something that happened yesterday, and
true.
it's
Still talked
something
about to this day.
still talked about to this day, but also it's at a time period, everything now is divided into, pre-internet, pre-social media, right? So
Yeah.
you can't look at this case the same as the Las Vegas case that just happened a less than a year ago or so, where the people said this thing landed in their backyard and these things were
Right.
running around, because that's after the internet and after social media. And so, because everybody's, even us, the reason we're talking about the Kentucky Goblins is because, we want somebody to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
These people in 55, who are they spoofing? Who are they, what's the deal?
Well, Lucky was a bit of a jokester, but no, I don't think they would have invented a story quite like this if they wanted to. I don't know. That's actually one of the debunking theories as we get to the end of this, at the end of the timeline. Some people say, well, they just did it to try to get some attention or make some extra money, but I don't buy that. I think this is another one of the situations. This isn't unlike the Mothman
Mm-hmm.
scenario where there's no real reason for the folks involved to, as you are implying, go out and communicate widely about this, because all they've got is downside for the most part.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. It's all downside. I mean, I don't know that in Hopkinsville in 1955 there was easy monetization for little green men, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't. So it makes you wonder. I mean, that, and they had the sheriff come out. They had all kinds of people come
It
out.
did. The sheriff did come out, and there's a couple of folks in law enforcement who actually testified about the believability of the witnesses based on some of the things that they saw when they came into the police station. But it's interesting when you mentioned their little green creatures. One of the details about this, when I did my extensive pre-episode research, Bob, was the fact that they're silver. They're described as silvery as opposed to green. So
Mm.
green was kind of assigned to them a little bit afterwards. That telephone game where people talk about a 1-to-1, but no, they were actually silvery colored according to the folks who were there at the farmhouse.
Real okay. Now
Yeah,
that's a detail that I did not pick up, other than the fact that I got the name wrong. A detail I didn't pick up
that's
on.
why I'm
Yeah.
here. That's why I do the extensive research that I do.
That's good.
But I think so. The matriarch of the Sutton family, Glennie, I believe was her name. She described them as a gas can with a small head on top and long arms and skinny legs or something like that. So
Oh,
silvery
okay.
creatures. So I know the sketch that you're probably looking at because I saw that around a lot on the internet. I think we sort of um, maybe made it a little bit more. I won't say humanoid because they're not really humanoid, but more animal-like maybe than they would have
Yeah.
described it.
Yeah,
Because
I'm thinking of the gas can that the old style gas cans from that time period were kind of a cylinder, right, with a bottom
yeah,
and
sort of the
yeah,
rounded top. Uh huh.
and then the
Yeah.
top was it's not like the plastic ones we have now. These all at the time were metal, and they usually were cylindrical with something slapped on the top and bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's making me think that, and especially when you hear some of the details about how the shotguns, the bullets apparently did not have effect on them. One of the descriptions was when they shot one of them, it kind of pinballed backwards and spun around, but was was not actually harmed. So
Hmm.
part of me thinks if we're going to go into this and into the idea of thinking back to the silvery object that streaked across the sky that Billy Ray saw,
Hmm.
um, like if these maybe these are some sort of a space suit that the folks, if they did come out of that supposed potential crashing craft, are wearing, and we don't even know what they look like when they take their outfits off.
Or, and this is a possibility, they
Hmm.
are robots.
The more as AI advances and we start getting closer to actually having robots that can function and do things, if you were going to explore new worlds, wouldn't you send a robot as opposed to going on your own?
Yeah, and the silvery nature, obviously metallic nature, the long arms make it easy for it to maneuver, right?
They could
And
pick a
yeah,
piece of fruit, they could reach down to the ground swiftly.
yeah, and if we look at there's I'm a butcher the name, but Pascagoula, Mississippi, uh, abduction case with those two guys in the early 70s who were fishing and got abducted.
Okay,
They
yeah.
thought they thought their visitors were not human; they were robots.
There's a theory out there that the grays, the classic gray aliens, are actually robots, some sort
Yeah.
of a non-physical entity.
Now that I don't, and then that would also explain the whole can't shoot them. I mean, they could
Right.
easily be made of titanium or some other element that we're not as familiar with and be bulletproof.
I said non-physical entity. I meant non-organic, I guess is more like
Non-organic, yeah. Yeah.
non-organic, right? But yeah, exactly. That does explain a lot. Perhaps why their eyes are glowing, right? They got some sort of
Hmm.
battery power because my eyes
Yeah.
don't glow.
Well, I would assume not. You never
No,
know.
sometimes it'd be handy. I forget
Maybe
when I walk my
maybe in
dog.
your youth, you were
In my
glowing.
youth, I had a shiny coat and glowing eyes.
But again, you talk about these poor people, and they had a gunfight with these creatures or
Yeah,
robots or whatever. And in 1955, even today, even though we are a gun society in the United States, I would say still, um, you're not going to just start using all this ammunition for no reason. I mean, it
yeah,
costs money, and it cost money back then. It costs money now. From what I could glean from my, rather cursory examination of everything, is these people didn't necessarily want to just keep throwing money into the woods
no,
on
they
these
did not.
things.
They were not necessarily a wealthy family,
Yeah.
based on my information as well. And then you say gun battle. I'm gonna defend the little creatures a little bit. They didn't. They seemed like maybe they just had wanted to come in. Maybe they had to use the bathroom.
That's true. They didn't shoot at back at them, right?
Correct.
Yeah. It was
Correct. They were just
one-sided gun battle
now. They
there.
certainly didn't get the hint, right? They kept coming when they were firing at them.
Well, if they've explored other planets, potentially they've been shot at many times.
Right. Well, though, yeah, this is right. This could be part of when they do their training. When you first arrive, more than likely, the residents are going to have some sort of ammunition fired
Or
at
the
you at
get
high
things
speed.
thrown at you. I mean, maybe
Hmm.
they mostly have encountered monkeys,
Oh yeah,
and they just assumed it was poop.
poop or small rocks.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
They've got an interesting way to fire their poop. They're probably that's what's going through the robot heads.
The robots are going, this poop is really traveling.
They've got specialized weaponry to fire poop at us.
This is the velocity of this poop is much greater than the last
They're
people.
taking all these readings, right? They're just all this stuff's going back to the mothership. A very interesting perspective of the human race at that point in time, back in 1955.
These must be a bunch of metal eaters because this poop is rock hard.
It's got to smell like gunpowder. What are they eating?
I mean, you have to. We always because we're so what do you want to call it? Maybe conceited, is that the word? We assume, like he raised his hands as if he came and like he would even these things would even know what that means. We assume all these. It's almost like me as a cartoon cat. Everybody puts all these things on the cartoon cat like it's a real person, right? So we're doing the same thing, and there's a word for that which you might know, Rob, but I don't know off the top of my head here. But
anthropomorphizing or something.
There we
like
go.
that?
We're
anthropomorphic.
Yeah, anthropomorphic. Nice. Yeah, the creatures to think that they have any clue how to do anything in our society, like put up their hands or. I don't know. Well, they jumped on top of the house, but maybe that's how they enter their houses. We don't know.
They think the chimney is the door,
right?
So they're trying to get in, and the people. In fact, one of them reached down and grabbed someone by the hat or hair. That was one of the details. Someone went out on the porch, and there was one up on the roof. Another interesting detail that I heard in my sources is that they didn't necessarily see more than one or two of these at any given time, but yet it felt like there was a lot of them out there. So perhaps these things were just really swiftly moving to give the impression of many. Maybe it's just a couple. Maybe it's a couple of robots.
Right. Well, if they were robots, maybe they can move a lot faster, or teleportation abilities, perhaps, or some other type of technology that allows them to move a lot faster than humans can. Well, apparently, except for putting their hands down the chimney or whatever. But
maybe their arms are retractable and maybe they extend. Remember the robot from Lost in Space?
Right. Yeah. he was probably The other problem, he didn't have any legs, and so they always had to be in a flat surface.
That's true.
I don't know if they sent down a bulldozer ahead of time to keep it so that he can move around, but
they kept them close to the ship because if the ship could land, they just keep the robot near the ship.
Danger. But yeah, these guys seem much more maneuverable with their long arms and short legs and
advanced, right?
Big noggins. Yeah.
If we were to build the Lost in Space, I bet you if they did a new movie with Lost in Space, that the robot would be a lot more mobile.
Oh, they did. It was on Netflix a few years ago, and he was much more maneuverable. Yeah, the one from the original show was very clunky.
Very clunky. Yeah, kind of bumbling. We happened to watch an episode of that, which I don't recommend because it was not nearly as good as I recall it being when I was a kid.
Just the music.
And I told my kid before because they'd never heard it. I'm like, hey, check out this theme song. You're really gonna like this. And I'm like, no, it's not that good either. And so it was generally very disappointing. But not how I remembered it back in the day.
But Will Robinson's still doing the circuits because he was still fairly young, comparatively speaking. Because he was such a kid.
He was definitely I know he was on The Dating Game at some point, but I think did he have like a major role in some ongoing show? I'm trying to remember.
Not that I'm aware of. He was in bands. I know he played in several bands.
Bill Mooney, right?
Bill Mooney. Yeah, He was in several bands over time, and obviously he was always doing the nostalgia circuit for Lost in Space, and making cameos for everybody who remembered him. But I personally, from what I recall, I mean, he seemed like a really nice person in all these interactions that they portray. So. I don't know if he really is, but I'm assuming it. So
well, you can only assume what you have experienced, right? I'm a fan of that. You can have an idea, but let the actual actions speak for
Yeah.
themselves.
Now
As far as you
Don
know,
West, who played the
Adam
other,
West. No,
no,
Don West. Don West.
Don West,
Okay, I thought we were going to
he was
Batman.
a total jerk.
Was
No,
he?
I'm just joking. I have no idea. I think he died fairly young. So
Well, see,
yeah.
let that be a lesson for anyone listening out there and
Plus,
how you should
no
live
one
your life.
remembers who he was, Don West. So that's why I said that.
No, no, I was confusing him with Adam West, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Another West. Yeah.
now that show does not disappoint. We do watch episodes of Batman again, and those
Oh
live up
yeah.
to their billing.
That has good music too. Dun,
It
dun, dun,
does.
dun, dun, dun. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly. Yeah.
yep, but
Dun,
very
dun,
good.
dun, 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 dun. Sorry.
And there are sort of like cryptid esque characters, right? The penguin and the people, sort of like not typical humanoid
Right.
penguins, right? Things like
Yeah.
that. So I guess there's a bit of a cryptid connection.
Egghead, right?
Oh, Egghead, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The King Tut guy.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So they're
Bookworm.
firing at these creatures, and
Hmm.
they make a run for it. They're so freaked out. I think it's calm. I'm gonna assume it's calm for a while. They run out to their pickup trucks. Bob, they've got
Hmm.
pickup trucks. I made sure I knew what kind of vehicle that they
Of
were
course
leaving.
they did.
Yeah, pickup.
Everybody has
Well, I guess that's
one.
true. They're on a farm, and they go scooting off to the police department in Hopkinsville, and the police station in Hopkinsville,
Hmm.
and they say this is what's going on, and they're all freaked out, and the police say, "Whoa, we better get back there and see what the heck's going on."
Hmm.
So about a half hour, 45 minutes later, the police arrive. There's military police from Fort Campbell nearby, and a photographer arrives at the Sutton farmhouse to investigate. But the only evidence remaining, despite what the witnesses are saying, are the actual shotgun shells.
Hmm.
Everything else appears to be gone, with one exception. Well, I shouldn't say one, but an exception that stuck out to me is some of the folks that were there the first time, they saw some sort of a what they call it, like a mark or an indentation or a I wrote this down. I forgot the word that they used, but essentially it looked like something was in the grass that could only be seen. It kind of appeared to shimmer at a certain angle from a distance. Like there's a shimmeriness to this substance that was on the ground.
Mm.
But when they got close to it, I guess the shimmeriness sort of went away. And then later on, we'll hear they actually came back the following day, and that was then gone as well.
That was
So
good.
that was so was that maybe where, I don't know, maybe they jumped out of the spaceship and landed there and left a little robot slime on the ground that dried up.
I was gonna say he took a leak.
Good. Oh, he could have died. So there goes my theory about them having to use the bathroom. But yeah, it could be goblin pee.
Yeah, he'd be like, "I'll be right with you guys. I'm right behind you."
Good.
He's standing there relieving himself, and then pew 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 pew, and oh my god, what's going on?
But he should be using his hands. I mean, that's my. I mean, I don't know where he comes from. He
Well,
shouldn't have his hands over his head. I don't.
I
It's
don't.
not.
Well, maybe he didn't have any Purell.
Oh, that could be it too, right? You wanted to stay. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got to go back in
he's
the
like, oh, I
spaceship
gotta
and
go. I gotta get these cleaned off before I touch anything
kind of,
else.
yeah. Otherwise, my buddy over there is going to complain. So I'm going to show that my hands are clear of this situation. You know what? I forgot to let you know about. We got another quiz for you here about the goblins.
Oh,
So
sure.
you want to go through
Yeah.
the
Oh,
quiz?
sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I clicked the wrong button there. Go ahead.
Oh, like go right ahead. So yeah. So this starts. They start easy, and we've covered some of these. So this is going to be a test of your memory.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
As
we
a
kind of
starting
riffed
point.
a lunch there.
We did. I forgot that I had the quiz all queued up for you. But the year. What's the year? You've already said this. We know this.
1955. Yeah.
Exactly. Now this one you wouldn't have gotten without me doing a little bit of the info correctedness over here. But
Hmm.
between which two Kentucky towns was the Sutton farm located?
Well, you corrected me. You said Hopkinsville and Kelly. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, I would have
Exactly.
got that. I knew Hopkinsville, but I wouldn't have got the other one.
This we just talked about. What town did they flee to seek help from law enforcement?
Hopkinsville.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what type of firearms did the residents use to attempt to defend themselves from the creatures?
Well, you said shotguns.
They also
What?
apparently use rifles too,
Oh,
which
okay.
not a big gun guy, but I guess
Would be a different shell. That's for sure.
Right. Isn't a shotgun a rifle or is it
No,
no? Okay.
shotguns. Well, no, I would say people would that say a shotgun is not a rifle. That would be
Okay.
my determination
Because
on
it's
that.
use shot instead of a bullet or
Right,
something.
exactly. You're using, although you can use a slug in a shotgun for certain things, but a shotgun
Hey, little sister.
generally is a larger barrel diameter,
Okay.
and that it can usually it has shot rather than having one lead bullet. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, but I think that's the only differential. But you think of it as a long barrel, then you think of a
Yeah.
rifle as opposed to a short
Right.
barrel. But I know there are pistol style shotguns.
Are there? Now they're double
Yeah,
barrel shotguns. I've heard that. Are there double
right.
barrel rifles?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
you can have a double
See?
barrel rifle,
See now
but those are
now
less
you're
common,
teaching
I
me
think.
things.
Well, I'm not a big gun guy either. I happen to grow up in an area where it's prevalent.
A lot of shotguns.
A lot of everything.
Out of
Oh my
everything.
gosh, yeah, everything. I've probably had the pleasure of shooting them. I don't know.
Hmm.
Over time, not, it's not been my hobby, but when somebody's shooting a gun and you're there, you're like, "Hey, can I shoot that gun?" Sure.
Yeah, that's I mean, I could see the draw of that for sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're there, you might as well.
Yep. It's
Now, we want to talk about micro tears in your brain from shooting guns, then that's probably, I didn't know about that till recently. So,
so is that from like having it close to your face when it goes off and it's sort of like the recoil or what's that?
right. So the percussion of, depending on what you're shooting, right? How big of the how many grains of gunpowder and so forth are in
Mhm.
the shell and everything. The percussion of it, if you do it enough, you can actually jiggle your brain enough to hurt it by shooting a gun.
Huh.
And that, I think that's been proven at this point. I don't think that that's it was a myth for a while, and I think now it's been proven. So because you're, especially with the recoil of a rifle or a shotgun or what have you, or God forbid, you're in the military, you're shooting machine guns and whatnot,
Right. Right.
then that back and forth motion, and then also just the you're breaking the sound barrier, right?
Yeah.
Right by
Right.
your
Right. Right by
head,
your
and all that going through your body
So wait, is
can.
that part of the gun sound? Is the breaking of the sound barrier from the gun?
It's from the the hammer striking the primer that sets the gunpowder igniting to shooting the bullet out or the shot. It's a whole complicated thing going on there, Rob.
It's it is it's a bit of yeah, that's a very we could talk for another episode about how guns fire probably.
Yeah, because yeah. So if you've ever seen, if you ever look at if you look at those shotgun shells that they had there in Kentucky, they're round, and then if you notice, there's a little round thing in the middle of it, right?
Mhm.
And that's the primer, and the primer is what's going to, it's a when the hammer strikes that, it's going to have a chemical reaction that's going to ignite the gunpowder inside that shell, and then that explodes, and the easiest way out is the barrel. So whoosh,
It
everything goes
goes.
out the end of the barrel, but every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So
I heard
whereas
that.
some of it goes back on you, right, into your shoulder, into
Mhm.
your, and then the sound of it,
Yeah.
because it is breaking the sound barrier. So it's traveling so fast out that, then you get that crack, and that sound wave goes through you as well.
I have very sensitive ears, or I did as a kid. I used to cry at fire engines.
Really?
Yeah, so loud. We would go to the local town fair where I grew up in West Virginia, and then when the fire truck came by, if they had their siren on, it would set me to crying.
Mm.
Too
I'm
loud.
sorry. I'm sorry, Rob.
Well, I've gotten over it, and my my hearing is going bad, so it's actually nice. I have now typical mortal hearing. I don't have supersonic hearing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that society have brought you down to normal.
Yes, I've normalized.
That the psyop of fire engines has brought you down.
Okay, we're into medium difficulty on your quiz. Are you ready? Have you?
I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Now this is going to require a little bit of recall as well. But what was the last name of the family who lived in the farmhouse?
Uh, Taylor. I would say it was Taylor.
No, those are the Suttons that lived there. The
Oh, the Suttons. I knew it was
Taylors were
Sutton or
visiting.
Taylor.
Yep, yep. The
Yeah.
Taylors were visiting. It was Billy
Shot too many
Ray
guns.
and his wife. I don't have the name of Billy Ray's wife, but she was there too. Although she didn't come up in the stories that I heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know about this one already. What did Billy Ray initially see in the sky before the creatures appeared?
He saw like some kind of light or arc in the sky, some
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah,
silvery
silver.
round metallic object
Yeah,
streaking across the sky.
Sputnik was coming
It could
down.
have been Sputnik. Who saw the creatures? And this is okay. Now we're heading into new territory, and we're in the medium difficulty section. Who saw the creatures once again after the investigators left that first night?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say Lucky.
No, it was
Not
someone else
Lucky.
you've heard about. Glenny, the matriarch of the
Oh,
family.
Glenny.
Yep.
Well, see, now that doesn't jive with them. I mean, unless Glenny's in on it, then Lucky is not going to get Glenny to say, "Yeah, I saw him again."
I don't think so. And
Yeah.
it was at her bedroom window screen with its claw-like hand.
Mm,
That's
that's
what
weird.
Glenny saw. Yeah. Now, so before we actually, I guess let's head back to the timeline here a little bit,
Hmm.
and then because we'll move on to the next question after we get the timeline figured out. Um, but after the investigators, they all come. They only find the shotgun shells. They leave, and the next day they come back, and that's when they only find the substance was no longer on the ground. That shimmery substance, and they actually what. I'm sorry, I just learned some of this data yesterday, and I'm reading through the bullet points. I'm rapidly trying to find my timeline on my computer screen, and now I've got it in front of me again.
Okay.
Was it smooth? Could you tell that I was searching
I
frantically for something in the?
no, I didn't. No, I was.
It didn't sound very smooth to me. So yeah, right. The investigators leave. Then Glenny sees the creature at her bedroom window, and the police continue with their investigation, and they interview witnesses and neighbors, but no further evidence are found. So I guess that's essentially where things sort of wrap up outside of the media attention, in terms of the actual incident. Like there's nothing about them officially departing except for the last time that Glenny saw them later that night. So now we can head back to the quiz because we have not covered any important points. And this is specific to, and again, I'm looking for a document. Can you tell that I'm searching this time? Okay, so obviously a lot of people don't believe their story. How dare they?
Right. Yeah.
But there is a specific type of bird that folks who are attempt to debunk this. Actually, one paranormal investigator as well who looked into this claimed that this specific type of bird was responsible for what the witnesses experienced. Do you know what that bird was?
They probably said it was an owl. Is my
It
guess.
was. What type
Yeah.
of owl? Do you have any? I mean, I think you get credit for this question, but
A barred owl, something like that.
great horned
A
owl.
great horned owl. Okay, I was just going for a common owl. So
Yeah. Whereas now we're going to try to debunk the debunkers. They say, well, owls are not nearly as tall as they say the creatures were. The creatures, according to the witnesses, were over 3 feet tall.
yeah.
In addition, the eyes of owls tend to not glow.
Let's just shine a light into them, and then they'll glow.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
which they were not doing, as far as I know.
Mhm.
And nor do owls rattle when shot at. Generally,
Right, and they don't have arms
they do not have long, emaciated arms.
or look silvery. I mean, unless
Right.
somebody went out and dressed up a bunch of owls in silver suits, like
Yeah.
to some kind of. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but
No, they probably have a lot of time on their hands,
yeah.
especially back then
Well,
in '55 without the
and
internet.
have you ever been close to an owl? I don't think they really want to put on a silver suit.
I've seen. I'm a fan of owls. I've not been close to one. I have seen close-up pictures and videos of owls, but they do not look like they've got a bit of an attitude to
Yeah.
them, based on what I could tell just from their facial expression.
I don't think yeah, they don't like to be messed with.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, you don't go petting no owl. That's what I say.
I tend not to mess with anybody who can turn their head almost in a full circle.
And spit
That's
up
one of my
bones.
that's one of my rules of thumb. So yeah, I won't mess with any
Yeah.
owls.
You know, owls make pellets because they don't digest the bones and they spit them back up in these little pellet looking things.
Do they spit
Yeah.
them up or do they pass them through the other end?
No, I believe they
Spit
kind
them
of
up
choke them back out. Yeah.
like a hairball, like
Like
an
a
owl,
hairball.
a
Yeah.
bone ball, a bone ball.
A bone ball. Exactly. Yeah, because if it went through your digestion system, I would assume that the some of it would dissolve, and so I do believe they kind of cough them back up.
Cough up a bone
Yeah,
ball. That's where the expression
yeah.
cough up a bone ball comes from, probably.
I've never heard that.
Oh, that must be a California thing.
Never heard that one. Sorry.
So on to the last of the medium difficulty questions. How did the families, I suppose this would just be the families of the Suttons because they're the permanent residents of the farmhouse, try to detour the crowds of curious visitors who showed up after the incident?
I'm assuming they shot at him like they shot at the
They
things.
did not. They did not give them the Kentucky welcome. They
Okay.
put so this is getting back to some of our early theories. They apparently had to install the no trespassing signs,
Oh.
but then they also tried, and this kind of backfired on them because it caused some of the debunking to flare up. They started charging admission because folks
Oh.
were just sort of tromping through their property, taking pictures because they heard about the story, and they're driving up on the
Mhm.
driveway, and they probably don't even have pickup trucks, and they're driving up on their farm
Right.
on the
Yeah.
farm driveway.
All these city people.
All the city people coming out taking pictures with. I mean, back then they had the flash bulbs that made that big flash and the boosh sound, right? That probably was a
Right.
little disturbing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do they have those
Well,
big
that'd be
round?
annoying. That'd be
It
annoying,
really
wouldn't
would.
it?
All times of
Yeah.
day, people coming in to tromp around your farmhouse looking for
Hmm.
signs of silvery goblins.
Yeah. I would
Um,
agree.
so this is actually something. This was going to be a hard question, but now it might be easy because we've covered this a little bit. But what was interesting about the substance the police found in the grass on the farm when they went out to investigate?
Well, you said it was shimmery.
Yeah, it had a sheen to it when viewed from a
Sheen.
specific angle.
Well, that gasoline has a sheen to it when
Oh yeah, well that might do it. Yeah.
if you
Oh, they're
look if
shaped like gas cans.
right and then like so like if you especially if you go down like if you've ever been on a lake or gone on a fishing on a boat or whatever up by the dock, you always see that sheen on the water because they're spilling gas
Hmm.
and oil and whatnot in the water, and so it really has a weird iridescent look to it, but not at every angle. So I think that could be an explanation there. Maybe they
But
peed gasoline.
well, if they've got bodies shaped like gas cans, I think this
Yeah.
is yeah. I think that they could just be anthropomorphized gas
Yeah.
cans.
Yeah. Yeah. There was like there's a video game called Cuphead, if you remember
Oh
that.
yeah, my kid
Yeah.
used to play it. But
Gas can head.
body, gas can body,
Gas can body. Yeah.
gas
Whatever.
can
Yeah.
body. Hmm.
So
That's
there
I
you
think
go.
Cuphead's probably a little more a
It
better
rolls
name.
off the tongue
It
better.
does.
Yeah.
It does. Okay, so we're down to the last question. This is the hardest, and we have not covered this yet. So if you get this right, you win the quiz.
Okay. All or
Bes-
nothing.
all or nothing. Besides owls, what is another theory presented in the sources to explain what the family saw? In the sources, okay, that was my documents. But what other theory was presented by folks who have sort of looked at the evidence after the fact to say this is what the family likely saw?
Oh boy. Besides an owl, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Monkeys?
You won the quiz. Apparently, there was some traveling circus that broke down.
That's always the case.
You
Those circus.
know, back in those days, the circus transportation vehicles were not as reliable as they are today, and so they were always breaking down. And apparently, some escaped monkeys from a traveling circus was one of the theories as to what Glennie, Billy Ray, and Lucky all saw that night.
It's always the monkeys, isn't it? They always blame the monkeys.
They did not mention whether the monkeys were ever dressed in silver suits.
Silver, well, much easier to dress a monkey in a silver suit than an owl, I would say.
That's where that expression comes from.
Well, they did it for Lancelot Link, so I'm assuming they could do it for a circus.
Yeah, I would. Anybody listening, do not go back and look up episodes of Lancelot Link. We're talking about Lost in Space being a waste of time.
Lance Link, secret chimp.
Yeah, that didn't even spark my interest as a kid. You like that one?
Oh yeah, come on. Who doesn't love monkeys dancing around?
I definitely, I guess I gravitated towards sort of superhero type characters, and Lance Link wasn't doing it for me.
I remember we had, this wasn't mine, I'm sure, because Lance Link is a little before my time, just a bit. But we had a Lance Link comic books.
Oh,
wow. Yeah. I had this
living the highlight.
Yeah, big collection of comic books that were basically hand-me-downs from a lot of older relatives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of them was, there's a couple of Lancelot Link in there.
Wow.
I remember the song more than I remember anything, because that was a great song. The Lance Link Secret Chimp was the name of the show, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was they had a band on there called the Missing Link. I believe it was the name of the band.
Yeah.
And they were, monkeys. Dressed up monkeys.
Now that was a good TV show. You should go back and watch The Monkeys. Now the monkeys who are not monkeys. That was a good one.
I watched all those as well, but
highly recommend.
They have a good song also.
They've got
a couple of them, yeah. And believe it or not, this is a little bit, and you may know this. Let me see if you do. There was a counterculture. Actually, there was more than one counterculture person on the Monkees as a guest. Ooh. Involved with the Monkees. It may not be enough information for you.
Yeah. I need more of a hint.
He had a band called the Mothers of Invention.
Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa was on the Monkees show.
I did not know that.
Yeah, go back and watch the later shows just before their cancellation. And there's an interview where Frank Zappa is playing Mike Nesmith, and Mike Nesmith is playing Frank Zappa.
I saw Frank Zappa in some. Who sent me that clip? Frank Zappa was actually doing like real acting and something. Did he branch into actual acting? It was some sort of
maybe.
I didn't watch Miami Vice. I want to say it was like a Miami Vice.
Yes, he was in Miami Vice. Okay. I did see that. Yes,
there
he was.
Go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, Frank Zappa is. I mean, I don't know if he probably wouldn't consider himself counterculture, but yeah, people probably know him as a counterculture type person. Yeah.
Wasn't a fan of Zappa music.
And the opening act for the Monkees at one point, very early on, was Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily peg that same musical style for the... If I'd gone there to see the Monkees and I wound up hearing Jimi Hendrix, I'm not quite sure I would have... Hendrix.
Yeah, they were buddies.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good trivia. Good knowledge. They have a totally off-roading on this topic. They came out with a Monkees album about 5 years ago. Really good. Mm-hmm. I definitely checking out. They had a lot of modern day songwriters sort of that wrote the songs for the Monkees, and they were performed by the remaining members. I think I think Peter's the one that passed away. No, Peter.
Davey passed away first. Yeah.
I think maybe one song was able to have his vocals that they had sort of reconstituted from some other recording, but the rest of the band performed the rest of it. But highly recommended album.
I don't know why I would know this, but it was Davey, Peter, Mike, and now Mickey's still alive.
Mickey's the remaining monkey.
Yeah. Of all the monkeys to stay alive,
who would have thought?
Who would have thought it would be Mickey?
I would have begged him.
Mickey, another side here, is part of the Hollywood Vampires. Did you know that?
I did not.
He's a Hollywood vampire. You go look up Hollywood Vampires.
Okay.
Originally, it was Harry Nilsson, Alice Cooper, John Lennon, and Mickey Dolenz.
All right.
They met.
Hollywood.
They met every week to. They were all alcoholics, and they met to get drunk
Uh,
at a club.
okay.
And those four people, and then it snowballed, and now Johnny Depp is a Hollywood vampire because there is a
Oh,
group called the Hollywood Vampires who play, which is part of Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp and some other folks who still play rock and roll.
nice.
Oh my
More good.
gosh, we're
More
spinning everywhere.
good.
Thank
Just
you. Is
covered.
there anything else on the Kentucky Goblins here before we finish up?
Well, the last is there's a brief blip. There's a was it a net, no, it's not a network Netflix series, but Hellier, right? Hellier, and
Mm-hmm.
Bob, I think we've talked about this briefly, but
Mm-hmm.
there was some individual. He was a doctor. He was located in Kentucky, and apparently he sent some sort of semi mysterious emails to a paranormal investigator implying that he believed his house was under siege by some sort of goblin like creature.
Mm-hmm.
And they went. There's actually kind of an interesting series, but um, the net of it is it was similar enough, and the location was close enough to the original 1955 Kentucky Goblins story that some speculated that perhaps these silver-skinned, diminutive, skinny-armed creatures crash landed on Earth and took up residence in some of the local caves in Kentucky and
Right.
resurfaced. What is this? 20 years ago now ish,
Mm-hmm.
and started trying to prank this one doctor and his family.
Yeah, those crazy, alien pranksters.
Well, if you're living underground for what, that'd be like 40, maybe 50 years.
A
I mean, you're going to get a little bit stir crazy. I'm
little
guessing
bit, maybe.
they got to go out and see the light of day and let their extended ears, their long pointy ears, sort of see the light of day once in a while.
Right.
But there's a lot of caverns and caves down under Kentucky. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of
Was it Bell Witch? It's in Kentucky. It's a cave.
okay. And then
Yeah.
Mammoth Caverns, Mammoth Caves.
I think so. I think that's part of Kentucky. I have to
Yeah,
look that
there's
up
some
for
there's
sure.
some
But yeah.
famous. When I lived in West Virginia, I know we went down there to see the
Yeah.
cave once.
Yeah. Bell. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I think we've solved this. Well,
We
no,
have
actually,
once
we have
again
solved
solved it.
it.
We figured it out.
The Kentucky Goblins,
Kentucky
all
Goblins.
done. Thanks, Rob, and make sure you go check out Rob's show at YouTube at YMIS Podcast, Your Most Interesting Story, and we'll be back again. And who knows? Maybe we'll talk more about the monkeys, or maybe we'll talk more about mascots. Who knows? Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Till next time.